Good day, friends. I hope this video finds you well. I appreciate you taking the time to spend with me to talk about 4 overlooked black metal classics. It's getting to the point where it's pretty hard on my channel to not double dip on records, so it's hard to pull these off, let's just say that. So a couple of these I've talked about a little bit when I got them in, but you know, it's important to kind of try again and revisit these records in case you missed some of my videos, whether they were 2 years ago or whatever. So what's playing in the background for this one is one of my 4 picks for today, and it is Poland's Wedrujacy Wiatr and their eponymous debut. Basically, I just remember this one as Tam Idzi Mishiek something. This is a brilliant atmospheric. This is the very epitome of atmospheric black metal, and it is done in the way that I think the Poles are very well known for. So it's got this sort of, not even sort of, it's got this insanely vibrant, vivid atmosphere of just existing in the woods, being with, really what I was thinking about it today was like the sound of this record is like coming upon a black metal band in the forest from 2 or 3 mountains away, and you come around this cove and stepping in mud, and you just hear this sound echoing throughout these canyons and trees and bouncing around the leaves at night. It is such a vivid depiction of what these songs are about, and I love it so dearly for that. Style-wise, it's honestly, it's kind of generic for its time period, but it's just like it doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it just does the wheel so well. Lyrics are all in Polish. This band is kind of a mystery to me because like everything they do is in Polish. They did do an interview for Bardo Methodology, which was sort of interesting. It's just on black vinyl. It originally came out on CD on Werewolf Promotions, and then this LP version came out. Looks like Eastside put this out. Not a gatefold, so not a lot to look at, but it is one of my favorite records of the last 10 years. If I had done one of those best of the 2010s videos or whatever, this would have been number 4 or 5 probably. I love this record. Their follow-up was also no slouch whatsoever. It's just one of those records that's just kind of like, well, it wasn't the debut. It didn't have that experience for me of the first time hearing this and just being so enveloped in that night sky and hearing the wolves just echo across the canyons. That's really the only thing that was wrong with it, if you want to say it. But this is a tremendous, brilliant record. I hope you check it out if you haven't already. Again, like some of these, when I say it's an overlooked black metal classic, it may not necessarily be new to you, but sometimes it's kind of worth just kind of recontextualizing and hearing someone else's perspective on it and revisiting it from their perspective. I myself get a lot of value out of that with other YouTubers, just kind of trying to like reconsider other records from other people's perspective, and a lot of times that helps me kind of come at a record from a different angle from the one that I had previously tried. But next I've got something going way back to 1987, and like the reason I I kind of probably should have said this back then. It was like, I'm dipping way back into history for this one, and for that reason, I'm also kind of going forward into the more current time period. I believe this Wedrujacy Wiatr came out in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So 87, 2015. Anyways, Tormentor, you should all know quite well. Most people are more familiar with their Anno Domini full length than they are with their demo 7th Day of Doom. For Tormentor, this is where it's at with me. As many of you know, vocalist of Tormentor was hired by Euronymous to sing on De Mysteriis Dom Satanis, but years prior, this is why Euronymous was such a fan of Attila's vocal work. So it came out on a really limited cassette back then. It made its way through the underground. It got reissued. There's a couple different like really underground tape versions of it. But since then, and this is one of the covers from way back then, and this is another one, so it kind of doesn't have like a unifying album cover that everyone like thinks of this iconic masterpiece of an album cover. This may be the most prevalent artwork for all the iterations of the record throughout the years, and I don't really understand the lineage of all of it whatsoever, but it's a fantastic, it's a band who obviously were listening to thrash, black vinyl, all the time, but we're trying to get more vampiric and just insert more energy and just evilness and raw death atmosphere to the whole alchemy of the style. And it has this first of all, let's talk about the sound quality on it. There's this all but charming like tape guitar quality to it. I don't know how it was recorded. I'm assuming it was on maybe on a 2-track DAT tape, and tracks were like bounced back and forth or whatever. But the guitar tone has this quality like it was recorded on some 8-inch television back in 87. And it has this kind of like warbly, kind of trebly tone to it. And when he has these hyper fast tremolo picking riffs, it just kind of like teams up with that quality of the sound to it that just makes it, it's so good. It's so good. Vocally, yeah, it's great. I can't blame Euronymous at all for recruiting him to sing on De Mysteriis Dom Satanis, but it's fucking frantic. It's got so much power to it. There were a lot of thrash bands at that time that thought they were kind of doing it, like bringing it to full throttle, but Tormentor just really weren't known for doing it well until years and years later. I believe this demo just kind of circulated in the underground, and then Anno Domini came out. That was also really limited and hard to get until Nocturnal Art Productions reissued it in '97, I believe, and that is also a really hard edition to find, and it's hard to find a reissue of it even today. No one has really done a very good job of reissuing the first couple of Tormentor releases, which is fucking strange. So I thought that was a good reason to kind of bring this out, show this off. This did come out a couple of years ago on Saturnus Productions. I did have to import this from Europe. It was probably like 45 something bucks or so, but man, the songs are super memorable. The riffs are just catchy as fuck. It instantly takes to your skin when you listen to it. So I don't know, I hope you check out Tormentor 7th Day of Doom. And let's go with this. So I don't know, calling this a classic is a stretch, but I want to take a moment to highlight this among all these other really great releases. This is Choir of Vengeance from Sweden. A very nondescript, boring looking release. I picked this up out of a catalog from Necropolis Records back in '98 or so. It was released in '96? Hey Tanner. And it is fucking great. Members of Dawn, and that was definitely why I picked this up. So members of Dawn, Lars Tangmark and Karsten Larsen were jamming along, I think during the downtime of Dawn or whatever, and they wound up putting out these 5 songs of like Swedish blackened death metal. Now, that doesn't sound all that interesting or compelling, but for the time period and the style that these guys are kind of known for implementing, it is a pretty valuable kind of timepiece for that little micro scene that is very near and dear to my heart. Dawn is one of my favorite bands. But so these guys date all the way back to like '87, and they were just kind of jamming around. There was another band across town called Cranium, who later had a couple of speed metal albums come out on Acropolis back in the day. But they were trying a new thing at this time, and this is a 5-track demo, like I said. A couple of years later, I want to say, they recorded another demo. The name's escaping me, but I'm going to look it up because it's fucking awesome. So I've had this CD in my collection for years and thought, wow, I wish something would have come of that band. But today, just minutes ago, I discovered that they have their other demo, which was called The Valley, was reissued with this included by Chaos Records very recently. It's on Bandcamp, so you can check it out digitally or order a copy of it on CD for $11. Yeah, Chaos Records out of Mexico does some fine work. But this is really charming. It's really great. I listened to the Valley stuff a few minutes ago because I was just blown away by the fact that this Lost Choir of Vengeance demo had just resurfaced to me. So that makes me really happy that I'm doing this channel and that I picked this out. And it helps me rediscover this band and find that this Lost demo from '97 has just resurfaced. But it's really killer. It's got this innovative kind of style for its time period. So it's just again like a really nice timepiece for what it is. Blackened Swedish death metal, death and black metal, I'm not sure, but great recording, great tone. It's just kind of got this demo quality to it, played by guys who were also very skilled. Like, by the way, the drummer of this band also went on to play in Mythotin and Falconer and King of Asgard and stuff like that. So like these guys were well versed in songwriting, but this is just kind of like them trying out a new style, and it's just not all that polished, and it's just really good, really well done. And finally, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of this record, but I did notice that I hadn't really reviewed it on my channel at all, and I think it's worth like I hadn't even brought this up on my what is it, second wave, third rate Norwegian black metal bands. Like, how did I miss this? Maybe I kind of glossed it over because I thought, everybody knows about Kvist. But in case you don't, in case you need to be reminded, this record is just gold standard, absolute, perfect example of maybe the lesser class Norwegian black metal bands. It's not your Emperor, your Burzum, Satyricon, stuff like that, but it is fucking phenomenal. I've just been really thinking about this record and trying to like understand what went into it. You know, a lot of times I try and kind of backwards engineer records and try and understand like what were they listening to, or what was the big influence that made them like. Did they sit down with the rest of these band members and say like, let's try and sound like yada 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 and do it this way and maybe that will sound great or whatever. But I've never really been able to unfold or backwards engineer this record, and I think really the only thing you can surmise from that is that it is innovative for its time. It coincidentally sounds kind of like something that may have been done before Battles in the North. It's like if you took Battles in the North and kind of turned the aggression down and gave it just a couple dollops of grace to it. It has some great just balance and diversity going on. The songwriting is just fucking perfect. So if you haven't revisited For Kunsten Ma Evig Vika by Kvist in a while, you can now do so on vinyl because Peaceville has lovingly reissued it. I am so thankful for Peaceville making records like this available again. Black vinyl, nice, thick, heavy record. I would imagine they still have copies of this for 20, 25 bucks or something like that. It's a classic staple of Norwegian metal that deserves to be in every collection. I can't urge you enough to worship at the altar of Kvist. A lot of times I kind of find myself thinking, God, I wish they would have done something more. But if you think about it, it just kind of makes you adore the only record that this band did all that much more. And again, like, when a band sometimes like reforms 20, 25 years later, it kind of makes me just go, oh, I hope they're happy and having a good time, but I try to ignore stuff like that when it happens. Anyways, Kvist is amazing, and y'all are great for continuing to watch my channel. The worst thing about doing this channel is that I have to do it. I wish that this channel was full of content that someone else was making about these records. Just a thought. That's what you're here for, right? We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.